Hey, YouTube. This is my story about how I know God, how God has really been watching over me all my life. All my life. Drugs has always been a big thing in my family. We've all had our share. We've all had our share of drugs, except for my mom. My mother, she just recently passed due to COVID, and she was the only one that didn't do drugs or drink, or she didn't do nothing. She was just good, so, we're all suspicious about why. But then you say, they say the good ones always die. The good ones always go. This is how I know God has always been watching and blessing me. Back in, I'm going to say 97, 98. It's kind of when I first kind of started doing comedy. I was going to a comedy show. And I was still scared to get on the stage. So I was like, maybe have a drink. Let me have a drink. And my brother recently was telling me about what's the hardest thing you could drink. He showed me Everclear. So I get to the comedy show. Got there probably about an hour early. Maybe an hour and a half early. So I'm like, yeah, let me have me a drink and get right. I'll be alright for the stage. So I get a bottle of Everclear and the Mystic tea. And I mix half the Everclear in the tea. And I drank half of that. I remember it like it was yesterday. So when you first drink, you good. You don't feel the effects that is coming for you. You don't realize what is to come for your ass when you're drinking. If you drink too much, So I had a fifth of Everclear and a Mystic iced tea. Drink half of it. Now it's about, let's say it's around 7:30 at night. Showtime ain't till 9-ish. I had a good parking spot. Midtown Manhattan, let me tell you, Midtown. I was probably about 55th Street. I don't know. I actually never even made it into the bar to where the show was. Because after the alcohol started to kick in, I figured, let me go for a little stroll, get a little scenery before I get on the stage. My stroll, I just continued to stroll. As the alcohol kicked in, I continued to stroll. I'm just wandering the streets as a drunk at this point. So it's probably midnight now. I realized I done missed the show. I'm stumbling and passing out and stumbling. Now let me tell you how good God is. See, in my stumbling stupor, I dropped my cell phone. There's one cell phone just right on the border of beepers. I had a cell phone. I dropped my cell phone. I didn't even know I dropped it. I dropped my cell phone. I'm stumbling the streets. I remember the cops woke me up when I was passed out on Rockefeller Center. I was passed out on Rockefeller Center and the cop woke me up and said, "Hey, bro, you want to go to jail?" I said, "No, sir." Then I stumbled off into another drunken stupor. So, as I'm drunken and stuporing, This is how good God is. I couldn't have told you where I was at. I couldn't have said, yo, I'm on 53rd Street and in Madison. I couldn't have told you where I was at. Some lady picks up my phone. She lived in Brooklyn. Remember, I'm in Midtown Manhattan. She lived in Brooklyn. Went home. Called my phone. Went through my phone. Found my mother's phone number. Because it said mom or ma something. Called my mother that lives in Howell, New Jersey. Howell, New Jersey. We're talking a good 75 miles away from Brooklyn. I'm in Midtown Manhattan. She told them, I think I found your son's phone. I live in Brooklyn. He was stumbling around the streets of Midtown. God is so good. My parents pulled up in front of me and saved me from myself. I couldn't have told you where I was at. So there was no direction on where I was at, my location. They didn't even know where the show was at because I didn't even really explain to them the show. I just was like, yeah, I got a show, and I split. I didn't tell them where the show was at. They pulled up in front of me and saved me from myself. Then we went to Brooklyn because they got directions from the lady to her address and got my phone. See, sometimes you don't know how good God is until you look back on what He has done for you in the midst of your era. In the midst of your era. You can't imagine how silly you was, or how I couldn't have helped myself at that point. Everclear, I didn't even know where my car was parked. We drove around for a couple hours looking for my car. I had wandered away from my car about a mile. My car was parked like on the east side, like on 100 and, not 100, like on 60th Street on the east side. I was on 8th Avenue somewhere when they found me. I just wandered away from my car. But the point is, if you look back, especially in the era of getting wasted, doing drugs, getting high, hanging out, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If you look at those times when you drove home drunk, these are the times when God has saved a lot of us. Saved me from myself. Had I found my car, had I actually stumbled to my car, I might have thought to myself, I can probably drive home. Passing out, stumbling. I might have actually thought that. But God knew I was in no condition to drive or even walk. I fell 3 or 4 times that night. Dropped my hat. I think I even had my hat on my foot as my shoe. I was that wasted. Rockstar wasted. God's been good to me. I got so many stories of how God planted Himself to show me, after I look back at it, boy, I've been watching you. I've been watching you. I've been protecting you from your own stupidity. Because when you that drunk is pure stupidity. You can't help yourself. And God knows it. That's my story. One of my stories. Stay tuned. I got a lot of them. If you like this video, if you got a story about how you know God's been good to you, like and subscribe and share your story. Everclear and God working together help me to see my own error. I'm out.